Arthur's family truth. My son and his wife went on a cruise, leaving me to babysit my 8-year-old grandson who was born mute. But the second that heavy front door clicked shut, the boy turned around and looked straight at me. And in a voice I had not heard in 3 years, clear, calm, no hesitation, he said, "Grandpa, don't drink the tea Mom made. She plotted to kill you." I was already holding the mug. I could feel the heat through the ceramic. The steam smelled metallic, like old pennies. "My name is Reginald Harmon. Most people call me Reggie. I'm 65 years old. I spent 30 years as a sheriff in this county, walked into crime scenes, sat across from killers, read liars for a living. I thought nothing could catch me off guard anymore. I was wrong. Let me tell you how we got here. My son Darnell is 34. He married Lorraine about 5 years ago. She's the type who brings casseroles to neighbors and remembers everybody's birthday, always smiling, always helpful. But something behind her eyes never matched that smile. There was always a calculation running, always a number being added up. I noticed it. I kept my mouth shut because Darnell loved her and I didn't want to be that father-in-law. They have one son, Curtis. He stopped talking at age 5, right after my wife Patricia died. The doctor said it was selective mutism, trauma triggered by witnessing his grandmother fall down the stairs. For 3 years, he communicated through a whiteboard and hand gestures. Sharp kid, quiet as a shadow, watched everything. Now here's something I never told Darnell. I wasn't just living off a sheriff's pension. Over 30 years, I had quietly bought 3 rental properties in Virginia and built up a trust fund sitting at about $1 million. I kept it quiet on purpose. I wanted Darnell to build something on his own. What I got instead was a son who opened a restaurant, ran it into the ground in under a year, and ended up owing $380,000 to a private lending group run by a man named Terrence Vance. I knew that name. I had investigated Vance twice during my years on the job, never had enough to close the case. He operated right at the edge of legal, until he wasn't. So when Darnell showed up at my door 2 weeks ago with designer luggage and sweat on his forehead in a 70-degree house, I knew something was off. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He shifted his weight from foot to foot like a man waiting for a verdict. Lorraine did all the talking. She walked into my kitchen and pointed at a glass jar of dark-dried herbs sitting on the counter. "Doctor, Bennett recommended this blend for your heart, Dad," she said, straightening my collar in a way that felt too familiar, her nails pressing slightly into my skin. "1 cup every night before bed. It helps with sleep and blood pressure. You have to be consistent. Promise me." I looked at Darnell. He was staring at the floor. "We'll be gone 2 weeks," Lorraine continued. "The ship has terrible reception, so don't expect us to call every day. You have everything you need right here." She kissed my cheek. Her lips were cold. "Enjoy your sleep, Dad," she said. It sounded less like a wish and more like an instruction. Darnell gave me a quick wave without making eye contact and hauled the bags out. He didn't hug me, didn't even look back. The door shut. I turned around. Curtis was sitting on the bottom stair. I told him I was going to put the kettle on and we'd figure out dinner. I'm a creature of habit. I follow instructions. So I measured out a scoop of the herbs. The smell hit me right away, metallic, earthy, not like any tea I'd made before. I poured in the boiling water and watched the liquid go almost black. I set the mug on the counter to steep and was about to drink it. That's when I noticed Curtis standing behind me. He hadn't made a sound walking into the kitchen. He moved to the window where condensation had built up on the glass from the steam. Slowly, he pressed 3 fingers to it and wrote 4 words, "Don't drink it." I set the mug down, then he spoke. Not a whisper. A full sentence, out loud. The first words I'd heard from him in 3 years. "Grandpa, don't drink the tea Mom made. She plotted to kill you." I asked him how he knew. He told me he had seen Lorraine testing the tea on the peace lily in the corner of the living room, the plant Patricia had planted years ago. He watched her pour a cup into the soil, then stand there and observe. Within a couple of days, the leaves had turned yellow and drooped. I picked up the mug. I walked to that same plant. I tilted it slowly and poured the black liquid into the soil. The soil hissed. A white foam bubbled up around the roots. The green leaves started going yellow at the edges in real time, right in front of my eyes. I put the mug down. I didn't panic. 30 years of law enforcement doesn't leave you. When everything breaks, you don't scream. You secure the scene, you gather evidence, you think. That's exactly what I did. I found an empty pill bottle under the sink, rinsed it clean, and poured the remaining liquid from the teapot into it. Sealed it tight inside a plastic bag. My hands were steady. Rage has a way of focusing the mind like that. Then I called Floyd Evans. Floyd used to handle toxicology screening for union workers at the county, kept the docks clean back when I was still on the job. Now he ran a private lab downtown. Discreet, no paperwork trails unless you wanted them. I told him I had a sample full spectrum analysis, priority 1 tonight. He didn't ask questions. I paid triple for a same-night courier. 20 minutes later, a guy in a leather jacket picked up the bag from my porch and disappeared. Then I sat down with Curtis. He was in the big armchair in the living room, knees pulled to his chest, watching me the way kids watch adults when they're trying to figure out if the world is still safe. I poured 2 glasses of water from the tap, drank one in front of him to show him it was clean, handed him the other. His voice was raspy from not being used. But once he started, the words came out like water from a broken pipe, 3 years of pressure behind them. He told me Lorraine had been silencing him since he was 5. Right after Patricia died, Lorraine had grabbed his face with both hands and told him, "If you say one word, Daddy will leave you. Daddy only loves good boys who keep secrets." She had held his father's love hostage, used a 5-year-old's biggest fear being abandoned to cover up what she did. Then he told me what actually happened on those stairs. Patricia had found bank statements. Lorraine had been forging checks, pulling money from my accounts, sending it to her own family. Patricia confronted her at the top of the landing. She had the statements in her hand. She told Lorraine she was calling me. She told her she was calling the police. Lorraine pushed her, 2 hands hard. Curtis had been hiding behind the plant stand on the landing. He saw everything, and Lorraine saw him. She walked down, stepped right past my wife's body, grabbed Curtis by the face and made her threat. That was the day he went silent. I sat there for a long time after he finished. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that sits in your chest like a stone. I had spent 3 years blaming myself for a loose carpet runner. I had spent 3 years staring at the ceiling at night, wishing I had been home. All of it, every bit of that guilt, had been manufactured by the woman sleeping in my guest room on Caribbean cruise ships while I babysat her son. I looked at Curtis and I made him one promise. Nobody is touching you, and I'm not going anywhere. Just after midnight, the laptop pinged. Floyd's email, subject line, "Urgent." I opened it. The technical report was full of charts and numbers I didn't need to understand. The red bold text at the bottom was enough. Detected, digoxin, cardiac glycoside, lethal concentration. Detected, warfarin, anticoagulant, high levels. Floyd's note underneath said, "Reggie, this isn't a sleep aid. This is a cocktail designed to look like heart failure. Digoxin causes fatal arrhythmia. Warfarin thins the blood so the cause stays masked. Given the concentration, daily ingestion would cause cardiac arrest within 10 to 14 days. It would look exactly like a natural heart attack in a man your age. Whoever made this knew what they were doing. Get out of the house." I closed the laptop. I thought about Lorraine's garden last summer. She had talked about her foxgloves like she was proud of them. She wasn't gardening. She was manufacturing. 2 weeks. A 2-week cruise. Come back to a funeral. Collect $120 from the life insurance policy Darnell had taken out on me 30 days before they left. Forged signature. Fake medical questionnaire claiming I had a minor heart condition. The waiting period expired the exact day they boarded that ship. They had timed everything to the minute. I called Preston Weiss, my lawyer for 28 years. He picked up on the second ring. I told him to come over. He arrived at 2 in the morning with a thermos of black coffee and a briefcase that looked older than Curtis. I laid everything out, the toxicology report, the forged insurance policy, what Curtis had told me about Patricia, all of it. Preston listened without blinking. When I finished, he took 1 sip of coffee and said, "We have enough to put them away for 20 years right now. You want me to call the DA?" I said no. If we arrested them tonight, they'd hire expensive lawyers, probably using my money, and the case would drag for years. Meanwhile, Terrence Vance's people would still be coming for this house. I needed a clean sweep. I needed them to destroy themselves. Preston understood immediately. He pulled out his laptop and started typing. We moved everything that night, the properties, the accounts, the trust, into an irrevocable structure called the Curtis Defense Fund with Preston as the sole trustee. By the time the banks opened in the morning, Reginald Harmon would own nothing on paper. No house, no stocks, no cash, just an empty vault with my name on it. Then I picked up the phone and called Terrence Vance directly. I knew his number. I knew his operation. I had investigated him twice, and I knew exactly how he thought. We met the next morning in the back of his dry cleaning shop on Route 9, just the two of us. I told him his debtor was likely going to prison and that collecting from a man behind bars would bring more heat on his organization than the debt was worth. Then I offered to buy the note, $380,000 principal, plus a 10% fee, $418 total wire transfer, clean and legal. No police involvement, no drama. Vance looked at me for a long time, then he slid the promissory note across the table. Darnell no longer owed the mob, he owed me, and that was a very different situation. The next morning I called Gerald Bennett, my family doctor for 25 years. Good man. Delivered Darnell back when this neighborhood still had cornfields at the edge of it. I told him what I needed, called Darnell, tell him I was showing signs of rapid cognitive decline, confusion, heart stress, asking for Patricia by name. Gerald didn't love it, but he understood. He made the call. They were back in 48 hours. I had 2 days to prepare. I practiced in the hallway mirror. Let my shoulders collapse inward. Relaxed my jaw until my mouth hung slightly open. Unfocused my eyes so they looked past people instead of at them. I had arrested enough people pretending to be impaired to know exactly what it looked like. I buttoned my shirt wrong, one button off, collar crooked. I rubbed my eyes until they were red. I worked on the tremor in my right hand until it looked natural. Curtis knew the plan. We had gone over it in whispers in the kitchen the night before, the two of us sitting on the floor with the lights low. I told him he was my lookout, my eyes and ears. He nodded once, and that was enough. When the door opened, I was on the sofa under a blanket, staring at the far wall. Lorene came in first, moving fast, scanning the room the way a person does when they're checking on an investment. Darnell followed. He looked terrible. Dark circles, weight dropped from his face, the look of a man who had not slept in days. Guilt does that. Dad, Lorene called out, her voice pitched up into that practiced concern. We're home, Dr. Bennett called us. Are you okay? I turned my head slowly. Looked through Darnell like he was made of glass. Are you the mailman? I rasped. You look like the mailman. Did you bring my check? Darnell dropped to his knees beside the sofa. Pops, it's me. It's Darnell, your son. His voice cracked, real tears. Whatever else was wrong with him, the sight of his father like that was breaking him apart. I pulled my hand back like his touch startled me. Darius is at school, I muttered. He's playing baseball. I want Patricia. Tell her the stew is getting cold. Lorene stepped forward and looked into my eyes the way you look into a car engine, checking for damage, not for pain. She turned her back to me and pulled Darnell a few feet away, lowering her voice. She thought I couldn't hear. 30 years of listening through walls will sharpen your ears in ways that don't go away. It worked, Darnell, she whispered. Look at him. He doesn't even know you. This is it. We don't need to wait for him to die. We file for emergency conservatorship. We take control of the accounts by noon tomorrow. She made a call from the kitchen. A man named Clifford Ward, a doctor with flexible ethics and an expensive watch, showed up within the hour. He pressed a stethoscope to my chest for about 3 seconds, flashed a light in my eyes, asked me what year it was. I told him it was 1987 and that Eisenhower had just won the election. He wrote something on his clipboard, stamped his medical license number at the bottom, and signed a certificate declaring me mentally incompetent. The whole thing took 11 minutes. That afternoon, they drove me to the office of Elwood Stone, the kind of estate attorney who operates out of a strip mall between a nail salon and a check-cashing place. Stained carpet, fluorescent lights, a stack of documents on the table that represented everything I had built over 30 years, reduced to signature lines. Darnell leaned close to me. Just sign right here, Pops. Then we'll get ice cream, chocolate, big sundae. Whatever you want, he was bribing me with ice cream. The price of a father's life, a scoop of vanilla. I took the pen, my hand shaking. I pressed the tip to the paper, and I drew a smiley face. Big circle, 2 eyes, a wide, crooked grin right across the signature block and the notary seal. Stone stared at it. I cannot accept a smiley face as a legal signature. Mrs. Harmon. Lorene grabbed my wrist. Her nails dug in. Sign it, she hissed. Stop playing games and sign it right now. When I didn't move, she slapped the back of my hand, hard, sharp, loud enough that Stone flinched and pushed his chair back. I leaned toward her slowly, just close enough that only she could hear me. I whispered 4 words in Latin. Qui tacit consentire. Silence implies consent. I used that phrase in interrogation rooms for years. I said it the same way now, quiet, precise, with the full weight of what I knew sitting behind it. She froze, stared at me. For 1 second, she wasn't sure if she'd heard it at all. Then I went straight back to asking for ice cream. Stone was already standing, gathering his papers. This consultation is over. I'm not a party to this. They dragged me out to the car. Lorraine was furious, jaw tight, eyes hard. Darnell looked sick. That night, back at the house, I gave Lorraine one more piece of bait. Half asleep on the sofa, I mumbled loud enough for her to hear, not the bank, never trusted banks. The walls, the basement walls, 40 years of skimming cargo. Gold bars behind the bricks, don't tell the tax man. Then I closed my eyes and pretended to snore. The basement light clicked on 20 minutes later. I lay in my bed upstairs listening to the sound of a sledgehammer hitting concrete, slow at first, then faster. Lorraine's voice drifting up through the vents. Keep going, Darnell. It has to be behind the structural wall. People don't lie about hidden treasure when they're dying. 3 hours. They swung that hammer for 3 hours chasing gold that didn't exist, destroying a perfectly good wall because I had whispered a lie to a greedy woman. Curtis slipped into my room around midnight. He sat on the edge of the bed and gave me a thumbs up. I checked my phone. One text to Preston, code red. Moving up the timeline. Be ready at 8 a.m. Downstairs, the hammering finally stopped. At 10:30 that night, Lorraine came to my room with a steaming mug. She sat on the edge of my bed, tilted it to my lips. I took each mouthful and quietly spit it into a sealed plastic bag I had taped inside my pajama collar before she walked in. She was too focused on the mug emptying to notice my throat wasn't moving. When the last drop was gone, she set the cup on the nightstand, stood up, and turned off the lamp. "Good night, Reggie," she whispered. "Not Dad, not Pops." The name on the insurance policy. She locked the door from the outside. I waited 15 minutes. Then I bit down on a small foaming tablet I had sourced from an old contact in the theater business, the kind used for stage seizures. It dissolved fast. Thick white foam filled my mouth and ran down my chin. I threw myself off the bed, hit the floor hard, and started thrashing, legs kicking the nightstand, arms slamming the baseboard, the lamp crashing down. The noise I made was not quiet. Darnell came running first. He rattled the locked door, then kicked it open. He dropped to his knees beside me, hands hovering, too afraid to touch me. "Oh God, Lorraine, look at his mouth. We have to call 911. Where's my phone?" Lorraine walked in behind him, no rushing, no panic. She reached over and took the phone right out of his hand. "Put it away," she said. "If they save him, the doctors find the digoxin in his system. We go to jail, we wait 30 minutes. Once he's cold, we call, we say we found him like this." Darnell looked at me on the floor. He was crying, shaking. 30 minutes, he whispered. 30 minutes for $1.20, Lorraine said. Half an hour of silence and we're free. He didn't reach for the phone again. He just held my hand and kept saying he was sorry over and over. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry." I lay still and counted the seconds. At minute 18, I heard the sirens, distant at first, then turning onto the street, then right outside, blue and red light flashing across the bedroom ceiling through the blinds. 3 cars. Lorraine ran to the window. "Who called them? We didn't call anyone." She spun toward me. I stopped foaming. I sat up, wiped my face with the back of my hand, reached into my pillowcase and held up the sealed plastic bag full of dark liquid. "I didn't drink a drop," I said. Darnell screamed and scrambled backward into the wall. Lorraine stood completely still, the color gone from her face. Heavy boots hit the stairs. The door frame splintered. Detective Wayne Doyle came in first, 2 uniformed officers behind him. Preston Weiss stepped in last, briefcase in hand. Suit rumpled, but his face composed. Lorraine started immediately. "He's suicidal. We walked in and found him like this. We were doing CPR," she pointed at me. "He has dementia. He attacked me. He pushed me down the stairs." Preston held up one hand. "Save it for the jury." He turned to Doyle. "Toxicology report, forged insurance policy, recorded audio of the conspiracy. It's all in your email." That's when Curtis walked in. He came through the door quietly, carrying his teddy bear, the one with the small camera lens fitted into the left eye. He walked past the officers, past Doyle, and stood next to me. He took my hand. Then he turned and faced the detective directly. "My name is Curtis Harmon," he said. Clear, steady, every syllable landing clean. The room went silent. Lorraine's face went from pale to white. Curtis pointed at her. He told Doyle exactly what he had witnessed in that room, Lorraine taking the phone from Darnell's hand, checking her watch, saying wait until he's cold. He told him about the insurance money, about the basement, about the tea on the piece Lily. Then he reached into the back of the bear, pulled out the small phone I had given him, and handed it to Doyle, recordings from the kitchen, from under the guest bed. From the night of the gold bars, Lorraine lunged for him, old instinct. I stepped between them before she got close. She hit the officer behind me instead, and the cuffs were on her in seconds. Darnell didn't fight. He slid down the wall and sat on the floor with his hands up, already broken. At the precinct, in separate rooms, they did what guilty people always do. Lorene blamed Darnell said. He forced her, threatened her, planned everything. Darnell listened to that through the two-way glass, and something snapped. He told Doyle everything, including what really happened to Patricia. He had been in the garage that day. He heard them arguing. He heard the thud. He came inside and found Lorene standing at the top of the stairs looking down like she dropped a dish. They exhumed Patricia's body. The forensic details matched Curtis's account exactly. The bruising on her back was consistent with a shove, not a fall. 6 months later, the judge read the verdicts. Life without parole for Lorraine Harmon, murder of Patricia Harmon, attempted murder of Reginald Harmon. 30 years minimum for Darnell Harmon, conspiracy, accessory fraud. I visited Darnell once through the glass. He thought I had come to offer mercy. I let him think that for about 5 seconds. Then I explained that I now owned his $380,000 debt, that every asset he had, the car, the watch, the suits, had been liquidated and transferred into Curtis's trust fund, and that I had blocked his number from the collect call list. He called my name when I stood up to leave. I didn't turn around. That was almost a year ago. Curtis and I live in Florida now, in a house with a terrace that faces the ocean. We have a golden retriever named Duke who steals socks and chases lizards and has no idea how much joy he brings to a 9-year-old boy who spent 3 years afraid to make a sound. This morning Curtis found me on the terrace with my tea. Earl Grey, hot slice of lemon. He looked at the cup the way kids look at things they're trying to figure out. Is that the good tea, Grandpa? I looked at him. This kid who carried a weight that would have broken most adults, who wrote 3 words on a foggy window, and then found his voice when it mattered most. And I said, it's the best tea in the world. Why? Because it doesn't taste like betrayal, I told him. It tastes like freedom. He grabbed the basketball off the chair, grinned, and sprinted down the driveway, nothing but net. The people who try to bury you quietly always forget one thing. They chose the wrong man to underestimate and the wrong child to silence. They came for my money, my house, and my life, and walked away with nothing but a prison number and 30 years to think about what they threw away. If this story moved you, hit like and leave a comment. Have you ever had to protect yourself or someone you love from a person you trusted? I read every single comment. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and never underestimate the quiet ones. They're watching everything.